Sounds good. Hello, and thank you for joining us today to discuss Arlington's resurfacing projects for complete streets. Here is a brief outline of what we'll be discussing today. We'll start with the welcome and housekeeping, which we're doing now. We'll give a quick overview of the street maintenance program, talk about complete streets and street maintenance. We'll talk about the 2021 proposed concept designs. And then finally, we'll talk about next steps and how to share your input. Next slide. So a little bit on the program background to begin. Arlington County's Water-Shore Streets program maintains approximately 1,000 lane miles of roadways in Arlington by repairing potholes and performing spot repairs to the pavement, replacing damaged roadway segments, resurfacing approximately 100 lane miles of roadway annually on county-owned streets. And streets are selected by using a measurement called the Pavement Condition Index. The Pavement Condition Index is basically a quality rating of the pavement condition, which helps decide which streets need the most improvement. Other factors in the paving program can be considered as well, such as capital or site development projects that may impact the roadway. On this slide, you'll see a picture of a typical roadway paving operation that is basically what we're describing today. It's important to note that when we're talking about the repaving program, as we are, the boundaries of the project are basically curb to curb. So it's not including any sidewalk repairs or ramp realignments and things like that. It's basically just what is on the asphalt street. So that's a very important constraint when considering what this program is able to achieve. Next slide. So how does our resurfacing program work to help achieve community goals? Basically, we look for ways to enable safe access by all user groups, including pedestrians, bicyclists, transit vehicles and users, and motorists of all ages and abilities. And again, it's important to just make sure everyone is aware that the constraint that we have to work with is between the curbs of the roadway. It's really just what are we able to do in the asphalt to better achieve that balance for all roadway users. The evaluation criteria when we look at repaving a roadway include planning guidance from the Master Transportation Plan, safety evaluations that we conduct periodically and through our Vision Zero program, and proximity to schools and other generators where we know there's a need to serve a wider population. So the resurfacing projects for complete streets right now, we're in summer of 2021, where we're going to share the concept plans, and the resurfacing will actually occur in summer or fall timeframe, where the resurfacing work is done and the remarking work is done and the street is in its final reconfigured configuration. Next slide. So the resurfacing projects, there's a lot of things that can be done to that, and I'm going to go through a few images on the next few slides that kind of illustrate some of the things that can be done through the program. So on the upper left-hand corner, you'll see a pedestrian bump out. Basically, the area that's shaded in the screen does not look that way on the street, but that is the area that is changed through restriping to help provide better space for pedestrians. So reclaim some of that wide intersection so that pedestrians have a shorter crossing. On the lower right-hand corner, again, you'll see the shaded area, and that shaded area shows a pedestrian refuge, if you will, through a median that, again, provides some refuge for pedestrians and helps prevent turning vehicles from turning over the path of pedestrians. Next slide. Okay, on the upper right-hand corner, again, referring to the shaded area, we can also add buffered or protected bike lanes. Basically, what this picture illustrates is a protected bike lane so that the vehicle travel lanes are separated from the bicycle travel lanes by a buffer and parking. That is one thing that we could do through our maintenance program. And then on the lower left-hand corner, you'll see improved traffic control, which really just helps provide better definition to space that is not needed for any use. And you can see also traffic control, such as a yield, can be put in so that right-of-way can be better assigned to vehicles approaching an intersection. Okay, next slide. So here's those four, common examples of improvements that I just went over. And basically what this slide shows is that there's multiple benefits from each of these potential improvements. So for instance, if you look at the first column, 3 of those different improvements help improve pedestrian crossings. Going to the next column, you'll see that all of those treatments provide better separation between people driving, walking, and biking. The next column shows that all of those treatments help reduce and control vehicle speeds. And going to the next column, you'll see that sight lines are improved through adding pedestrian bump outs and improved traffic controls. And finally, the last column shows that by providing clearer and more markings, we're able to define the street use and make it easier for actually people of all modes to navigate our streets. Okay, next slide. So now we're going to talk about a specific opportunity that we see through the paving program, and I'm going to turn this over to Kathy Seebauer, an engineer within DES. Kathy?
Thanks, Dan. So hello all, like he said, I'm Kathy Seebauer. I'm a design engineer with Transportation Engineering and Operations, and I'll be discussing this section of North Lynn Street from the Arlington Boulevard exit ramp to Wilson Boulevard. So the existing conditions on this road, it's a major north-south connection through Rosslyn. It has 3 vehicle lanes at the south end, and it expands out to 4 vehicle lanes past Fairfax Drive. It has curbside transit and a standard bike lane. And there's a variety of nearby destinations like parks, restaurants, businesses, and the Rosslyn Metro. So earlier this summer, after studying this section of North Lynn Street, TE&O learned that the existing street width provides the opportunity to convert standard bike lanes to protected bike lanes without changing the number of travel lanes. So we found that both the signalized and unsignalized intersection operations would be generally maintained with this reconfiguration. And approximately 4 parking spaces are going to be impacted to maintain adequate sight distance between vehicles and people riding bikes. So this would be an incremental improvement as described in the Rosslyn core study. And based on all that analysis, what we can do in the short term through the repaving program that Dan described the constraints of is improve some safer facilities on that curb-to-curb asphalt, which we're going to go through next. So next slide, please. So here is the beginning of the proposed concept. Looking at the left of the screen, starting at the south project limit at the Arlington Boulevard exit ramp, you'll see that the project begins by adding northbound bike sharrows. So there is an existing bike lane about a quarter mile south of this project, and we're just trying to improve the connectivity and working to close the gap between that bike lane and the existing bike lane here. And just as a side note, that exit ramp from Arlington Boulevard is a VDOT controlled road. So Arlington County is somewhat limited in what changes we can make there, but a reconfiguration of those on-off ramps are being looked at as part of the Rosslyn core study. So long-term improvements are in development for that intersection. So after that area, next, the vehicle lanes are going to be narrowed after Fairfax Drive. They're still going to be all maintained and still meet our standard 11-foot width. And that extra room from the narrowed lanes is allowing us to provide more space for other facilities, which includes upgrading the existing standard bike lanes to be protected bike lanes. And what that means is the bike lanes will be separated from the vehicle lanes by the parked vehicles and a small buffer strip. Next, you'll see that the bike lane will be shared with the bus stop that's along the stretch of road, but there will be included enhanced bus stop markings in order to clearly define that transition. So for this first section, you'll see that there's an overall reduction in 2 parking spaces near that bus stop to improve sight distance. Next slide, please. So once again, starting at the left of the screen, that's the same bus stop as you saw on the previous slide. This just allows you to see how the configuration returns to the proposed cross section for the protected bike lane. Again, parking is used to protect the bike lanes. A few spaces in this section, again, have to be removed in order to allow for adequate sight distance between the vehicles and people riding bikes. There's also some gaps in the parking to allow access to fire hydrants and the like. So next, you'll see that there are enhanced markings and separation, which basically means green paint and bollards, which is there to give notice to the drivers and the bicyclists that there's a conflict point where the vehicles are crossing the bike lane in order to get to the right turn lane. So really just working to clearly define the road space for all users to make the road safer for all users. And then the northernmost limit of our project is there at Wilson Boulevard, and it ties into the existing configuration of the road. Next slide, please. So in summary, this concept design accommodates the existing traffic by maintaining the same vehicular lane configurations. It adds additional separation between people driving and biking with protected and buffered bike lanes. It enhances the network connectivity with improved bike markings, and it improves visibility of right turn conflicts with the application of green markings. And so that's the summary of the design. So next, I'll turn it back over to Dan to tell you about how you can give your feedback on this design.
Thank you, Kathy. So as we started off in the beginning, we described that right now in July, we're talking about the concept design that Kathy discussed. We'll gather input for that design over the next few weeks. And then finally, in the late summer or fall, we'll look at what we learned from the feedback. We'll create a final design, and then we'll go to project implementation. Next slide. So we have a Conveyo tool set up for you to provide your feedback. That'll be open till mid-August. Basically, the Conveyo tool allows you to put your comments on a map so that they're assigned to a specific location. So I want to thank everybody for listening to this presentation. We look forward to receiving your feedback. Thank you.